Hey, so this video is going to be a bit different than what I usually post on here. I'm going to talk about my life story, what these past few years have looked like for me, what I'm currently doing, and what I think future holds. I'm Dusan. I'm 22 years old, and I'm from Serbia. I live in a small city called Subotica. This is my hometown, and I just recently moved from my parents' house. I live alone in a small apartment, working on my business, and looking to scale it to over $1 million run rate. How did I end up here? What does my current stage of life look like? Well, to understand that, we have to go a couple of years back. I think about 5-6 years ago, I was still in high school, and I worked relentlessly. So I worked as a waiter, and I was also playing volleyball. I went to the gym, and least of my focus was going to the actual schoolwork, because I was not really interested in that. I knew that is not my path. It's not going to provide me the type of life that I want in the future. So I just focused on improving myself and working towards making more money, which back then I only knew about, the old ways of just having a regular 9 to 5 or a part-time job and just making a few bucks here and there off of some side hustles and things like that. This part of my life was kind of hectic because it was really hard to balance all those things. My parents were not so happy that I wasn't really, focused on the schoolwork. They knew that I was able to be a really good student, but I just didn't want to focus on school whatsoever. So I then thought about, becoming a professional volleyball player, because back then I was playing volleyball. But then I thought about how my future would look like if I went that route. And I knew volleyball players didn't earn enough money to actually provide for their loved ones and for their families. So they usually have like a part-time job besides that, in this country. So if you're a professional volleyball player, like in Europe, you're playing like a Euro League, that's totally different. But local professional player or just playing in Serbia is not enough to actually live a sustainable life. So then I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to double down on being a waiter. And then eventually I'll be promoted to being a manager. I literally just climbed this promotional ladder, and, I ended up being a chief waiter, whatever, at a local restaurant. It's not a significant role by any means. And I wasn't making like a lot of money, probably like 600 to 800 euros, which is equivalent to around $900. And that's with the tips as well. There weren't any bonuses whatsoever. There was just the base salary alongside the tips that I got from, the guests. I started selling clothes on the internet. It was literally secondhand clothes that, I bought for cheap, and then I had a solid markup. So probably making around like $5 to $10 per clothing item. And eventually I wanted to turn that into a business. Now that really didn't work out at all. I opened the company and I opened the website. I started taking pictures of these clothes. I started thinking about the logistics, calling like some companies that were shipping these clothes to my country. And I ended up working with nobody. I was just, again, going to the secondhand stores, to thrift shops, and just buying clothes in the bulk and then taking pictures and just, selling these items. When the business was kind of official, I probably sold like 3 to 4 items, not more than that. Before that, I was selling to my friends, to my colleagues, people that I knew, and I made, a few bucks, and that's it. Eventually I had to close the company because I wasn't paying any tax, because I wasn't making any money legitimately through the company. I ended up paying like 500 to 600 euros to the taxman because, I wasn't paying any tax within these few months that I was running this company, which was back then literally 1 month of work, because keep in mind that I still had my job. So when I closed the company, I literally just gave the clothes away because my room began to look like a storage, just had so many clothes around the room. It was so messy. I then began to think like, what is the path that I could take to increase my income, to start making a substantial amount of money to provide for my parents and for myself, and to have an incredible life. And the idea that came to mind was eventually opening my own club, because I was in that sort of industry. We were making these kind of like parties back in that restaurant that I was working in. I still had that job, and on the side, I was renting a club every single Friday. Now, these parties were, I'd say, somewhat illegal because I didn't have a legitimate company, and we actually didn't sell drinks whatsoever. The way the business model worked was basically selling tickets for 5 euros per entry. And so people that were getting in, they could buy their own drinks at a local store and then get in and then just drink, and that's it. I was making around like, I'd say 500 to 600 euros per party, which was really cool. But I eventually had to close it down because it was somewhat illegal and I had a lot of issues with the police, and my clientele was kind of young. Now, they weren't like 13, 14, 15. They were like 17, close to 18. And I think legal age of drinking here in Serbia is 18. So I just spotted there was a huge demand. There were these kids that wanted to drink, but they weren't allowed in a club. And so I just literally provided them a place to go in, have, nice night out, have a couple of drinks with their friends, and then go home, and that's it. Now, I withdrew myself from that. I had like a business partner that I was working with, and he continued with making these parties, eventually opened his own kind of like pub. Now, I didn't want to go that route as well. I spotted that if I continued making these parties and if I eventually turn it into a legitimate club, I would still have my old clientele, coming into these parties, and, the parties would be insane. I would still, like, the LTV would be insane because the older they get, the legitimate the company is, and then I can sell them drinks, making me more money, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing I didn't like about my life back then was I felt like I was ruining their lives with alcohol, with providing fun to them, which isn't really a case. Like, they would still find their way to drink. That is probably what every drug dealer would say when somebody asks them like, yo, why are you selling drugs? Oh, if I wasn't selling, then somebody else would. Like, shit like that. But on a real note, I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin doing that kind of business. So what I did is, and keep in mind as well, I was then I started attending a uni or a faculty here in Serbia, and I quickly gave up on that because I knew I don't have anything from it, honestly, because the way I thought about life and how I was moving back then didn't really align with people that were in the uni and faculty. Completely gave up on that. And then I figured, there's a lot of people making money online. Like, how are they doing that? And so I started with video editing because it's a low barrier to entry. Like, everybody could easily get into it. You just download CapCut. And back then, CapCut was literally free. There weren't like these paid add-ons. It wasn't like $10 per month. You can just download it and then just start editing, and that's it. 4 days into my editing career, a guy from the town that I was living in at my parents' house told me that YouTubers that were living in the next street literally were looking for editors. And so I went there, I applied, I was making like 300 euros a month, but it was honestly an amazing experience because I got to learn editing, making thumbnails, creative directing, recording videos, and like all the skills that I'm currently using for my own business. I did that for about 3 to 4 months until I found a freelancing client. So I ended up opening a Fiverr gig, charging $5 per video. And then I found my first client with whom I ended up in Dubai with, by the way, recorded a couple of videos with him. We ended up having a great relationship. We still keep in touch to this day. It's amazing how all of that just quickly happened. From there till now, a lot of things happened. So I ended up opening like a YouTube agency, and this is like a span of 2 years, by the way. So it's not really a long time, but in 2 years, I ended up opening a YouTube agency, scaled that to about 12K a month, had a single month of 12K, by the way. It wasn't like per month. And then all of that went to shit after I had to fire all my clients, all the people that I was working with as well within my company. I just ended up alone. And so I had to, get back to making some stable income. I was starting to make like 3 to 4K a month. And then I partnered up with my friend who I'm no longer working with, by the way, because he ended up working on something else, but we're still really good friends and we keep in touch literally every day. But we just didn't align on, the paths that we're taking. Now I'm building a info product agency, which is literally helping coaches, consultants, and course creators build and scale their info product. And the way we work with these people is on rev share deals, setups plus rev share deals. And so this is completely different than what my business was looking like a few months prior. So I'm no longer just working on some YouTube content, whatever. Even though like that is largely where my expertise is in, but I'm somewhat expanding. I'm expanding my skill set into more of a email marketing, media buying, copywriting, literally everything that can help them get more sales, and also like building out the info products. So whether that be course, like building out different curriculums, modules, stuff like that. So all of that is like really new to me. Like I have a somewhat good copywriting skill set because I was writing scripts for clients before, and I'm still doing that to this day. But it's completely different when you have to make a copy for a landing page and then think about like the ways your potential client, your lead, needs to go through until they actually book a call or buy your product instantly. So it's a bit different than like scripting out YouTube videos, but either way, like this is something that I'm working towards, and I need to be an expert at this until I eventually start to scale and, expand my team. Besides that, I still have the YouTube organic offer, which I'm providing to B2B and B2C businesses. And that's kind of it. That is where I'm currently at. My income has significantly lowered till now. I have some issues with clients that I need to fix, and I'm making around like $3,000 a month, which is, not so significant at all. I have a launch upcoming for one of the clients, and I'm looking to get like $30,000 cash collected from his info product. And with a rev share deal, that's approximately going to be like a $5,000 within the day. Or a bit more than that. A lot of new problems are happening right now. It feels like I'm making no progress at all. But, looking at the grand scheme of things and where I've been in the past, what I did 2 years ago, what I did before that, like this is a significant amount of progress. I made money, I lost money. I'm not making so much money at all right now, but I'm eventually going to make all that money back, and I'm going to build a big sustainable business. And that is what the future will look like. Now, for this to actually happen, I need to put tremendous amount of work. Every day I'm showing up and I'm literally pouring in everything that I have. Every drop of energy is literally getting towards business because this is my main priority. I know that once I fix this, I fix literally every problem in my life. Now, of course, there are things that business and money can't really, help you out with, and that is relationships, which I still work on because those are two of my main things, relationships and of course business, because I know those relationships would be much better if there was a lot more money involved. What I'm talking about specifically is relationship with my parents. I know my friends don't really care about, how much money I make at all. I know my parents don't really care how much money I make, but I really want to be there for them. I really want to give them as much as possible because, they gave me this life. They gave me a chance to make something out of it. They're amazing parents. They completely understand what I'm going through, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. So what I could do for them in return is offer them a great life, which I'm currently working on. So yeah, with that being said, I think the future is going to be really interesting, especially with the amount of work that I'm doing currently, because how I think about work generally is that results will catch up eventually. Like it takes a lot of time. The effort that you're putting in right now, it's going to take weeks, months, probably even years to see the results from that work that you did. So I'm really optimistic about the future. I can't wait to see what the future holds for me. And that's kind of it for this video. Now, there's so many parts that I probably didn't cover because I didn't structure this video whatsoever. I didn't have any bullet points on my monitor. My monitor is literally turned off, by the way. And so I'll probably make another video eventually similar to this. But yeah, I will see you guys next week.